Movie lovers and cinephiles around the world, welcome once again to another episode of Andy Takes On. And in today's episode, Andy takes on the movie Pitch Black. So let's look at the story quickly. Imagine trying to launch a rocket off an alien planet. Now imagine that you're trying to do this without any technical or financial help from Elon Musk. And finally, imagine trying to do this on a pitch black, moonless night with a makeshift crew that comprises of a pilot, a bounty hunter, a liquor salesman, an imam, and of course, an escaped murderer, because what crew is complete without one? That's the nightmare scenario of the movie Pitch Black, which is basically a survival escape movie in outer space. Now, whilst we're here, is there such a thing as inner space? Because I've never... Anyway, Pitch Black opens up in outer space as we found ourselves on board a commercial transport ship mere moments before a shower of space debris rips through the hull, kills the captain, and sends the ship free-falling onto the nearest planet. Now, during the descent, the pilot tries to restore control to the ship by losing some of the excess cargo. And by extra cargo, I do mean that she tries to jettison the compartment where the ship's passengers are still rousing from cryogenic sleep.
I'm not gonna die for them.
Because she fails, some passengers do survive. Now, the most prominent of these survivors in this motley crew include Fry, who is the pilot who is racked by guilt because she almost killed her passengers, Jack, a young impressionable lad who decides to make a role model out of the one convicted murderer among the survivors, Cameron, a man who retails the wise waters, a caterer of the liquid lunch, a provider of the solutions sold at the bottom of a bottle. You catch my drift. To round off the crew, we have the holy man named Imam, or was he an actual Imam? I'm not sure. Johns, a space cop who later turns out to be a bounty hunter, and Riddick, the murderer whom Johns has both hunted and captured. So these are our planeteers, but they're not trying to save the planet. Sorry, Captain Planet. They're actually trying to leave the planet that they're on. But the question is, how? Now, by itself, this is a significant challenge, but in their case, it's made worse by the fact that this particular planet, this planet right here, it experiences a total, absolute pitch black. You see what I did there? Pitch black, because that's the pitch black eclipse every 2 decades, and they just happen to have landed on the eve of the next one. So a quick tally of the problems they're dealing with here. Number 1, need to leave the world. Number 2, working in total darkness. And oh yes, when it gets dark around these parts, there's the slight problem of things that go bump in the night. Like the most vile things you've ever seen. Like if a hammerhead shark, a raptor, and a bat had a baby, when these abominations, is the only word I can use there, get revealed as the big bad of the movie, everyone has to set their differences aside and get to the emergency ship and get that thing off the ground, or the term in the dead of night is going to take on a whole new meaning. Now, looking at the tone and themes of the movie, the overall tone of Pitch Black is driven by use of light and shadow to illustrate both the characters and the scenes to great effect. Now, depending on which of the planet's 3 suns are shining, director David Twohy alternately uses overexposure to emphasize the desert feeling of the planet and various color palettes to affect individual scenes. The disorientation of the crew members is further emphasized by tilted camera angles and warped dimensions. What I found to be a recurring theme in the movie is the idea of the dual persona, or of a complete 180 from an established position for a character. So for example, you have Jack, who was initially seeming to be a boy, was later revealed to be a girl.
What?
We have the selfish Captain Fry, who turns out to be selfless enough to consider self-sacrifice.
I would die for them.
Try saying that 3 times fast. And then, of course, we have Richard B. Riddick.
Richard B. Riddick, escaped convict, murderer,
Who reveals a heroic aspect to his nature. The emphasis is on the word aspect, because he's still a douche. But after all is said and done, Pitch Black is an action movie, an early entry into what is now the popular trope of the anti-hero. So why don't we take a look at some of the characters and their defining characteristics. The first one, obviously, we're going to look at is Riddick, who is the main man. He is the horror with the heart of, well, horrific stuff, but on a desert planet whose only life form is actively hunting any visitors to the planet, he might just be the kind of horror that you want on your side. Now, this wasn't my first Vin Diesel movie, but if it had been, I'd still have concluded that this guy's box office gold. He embodies the character so well, and it doesn't hurt that his voice has that gritty quality of gravel being poured onto, well, more gravel. Now, he is Groot, I mean, great, great is what I was going for. And his defining line, I suppose, is
They say most of your brain shuts down in cryosleep. All but the primitive side, the animal side. No wonder I'm still awake.
we have Fry, who is there to pose and answer the question of how far will you go to redeem yourself when you've made an unforgivable choice. Radha Mitchell's portrayal of the character's inner conflict is nuanced, and she plays Fry with real depth. Johns, who, even though when we first meet him, he's supposed to be the good guy, something doesn't sit well about him. And it's not long before he reveals himself to be a wolf in wolf's clothing and starts showing teeth. So we've come to the point of the review where I give you my take. Now, Pitch Black has sleeper hit written all over it. It introduces an unexpectedly interesting world and intriguing characters. Now, I can see why it went on to spawn so many sequels. The question of whether or not those sequels raised or lowered the bar is for another review. But as for Pitch Black, the pacing is excellent, the suspense is well drawn out, the jump scares are few and quite justified, and most of the characters, they are fleshed out enough that we care what happens to them. And the story, in terms of from a writing perspective, to me seems very simple and solid. This is the kind of film that makes stars, and having seen it nothing short of 10 times, I can give it no less than 4 out of 5 stars. So, that's Andy Takes on Pitch Black. Do remember to let me know what you think about the review and about the movie in the comments below. Subscribe, that'll be fantastic. And share the link so that you can chime in with your friends and see how we feel about the movie Pitch Black. But that's Andy Takes on Pitch Black, and this is me taking off. Cheers, and see you next time.